What's going on, everybody? It's your man Rusty Blade here at Smoky Studios, and to the right of me, I got Ken Marty. What's going on, Ken?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm lucky enough to be very soon serving as the host of a brand new show that's going to be seen on YouTube and other outlets, and it's a brand new show that's focused on the rockabilly and the vintage lifestyle, and the show is being created right here in Chicago, for Chicago, by Chicago.
Now, how did you come up with an idea? Because, that's not a big market, I would say.
I have joked for years that if you could take all of the hardcore rockabilly music fans in the United States, you could put them in the Allstate Arena and still have seats left over. But it's a niche market, but it's a variety of music that has been a deep love of mine since I was in high school. When I first heard the earliest records that Elvis Presley made when he was a teenager, I went, those are the coolest records. Those records spoke to my heart. So I just I moved to Chicago because of rockabilly music, because there was a small but vibrant rockabilly scene that's been going on in this town for 30 years, going on 40 years at this point. And being friends with a new young kid by the name of Eddie Perdita, who said, you know what we need to do? We need to have a show on YouTube that's a talk show where we can talk about swing dancing and rockabilly music and vintage tattooing and old cars and old houses and all that stuff. Eddie was the one that came to me and said, Ken, I want you to be the host of the show. I couldn't be happier.
Now, when you say vintage, what era of music are we talking about?
We're looking at music that came around, well, for those who know or for those who don't know, rock and roll music really started before the Second World War, long before Elvis. There were a ton of people, artists like the Treniers and a young Chuck Berry and Little Richard, and all those guys, they were all playing rock and roll music before it was called rock and roll. Elvis comes along in 1954-55, crystallizes it and brings it to young kids across the United States. But the music that we're dealing with is people who are, it's music that's based on the kind of music that was made all the way back to 30s jazz, 40s swing music, and then the rockabilly music that started in the 50s, even up to surf music of the early 1960s. Those are the years that we're dealing with. And we're trying not to be real hardcore about it, because you can't, not everybody has to be absolutely historically accurate, but if it's music that they love, that speaks to them, that speaks to their hearts, we're more than happy to talk to them and have them as part of the show.
It got me interested. I want to see the Chicago Vintage Show. Now, you have a host mentality, you know what I'm saying? A speaking voice. Have you ever done this before?
Oh, going far, far, far too back. Going all the way back to when I first started in commercial radio when I was in high school in the 1970s. Yeah, there are a few lines here that the camera doesn't always show, but I spent time doing commercial radio. But the biggest feather in my cap was, that I was the host of an event that was called the Big C Jamboree. That was a rockabilly jam session that took place at a club on the north side of Chicago. That event was monthly, and it went on for 25 years, and I was the MC of that entire thing. I also used to host a cable access show called The Other Side with Ken Marty. That was on for 16 years. So, yeah, I'm a little show business nerd from way back.
You got it down pat. Now, how can people follow you on social media to get in tune with the show and other things you got going on?
Absolutely. The show is called The Chicago Vintage Show, so you can look for Chicago Vintage Show. There's a YouTube channel. It's on Instagram, and you can also find us on Facebook. Those are the best places to go. And the tapings will happen once a month. The tapings will happen once a month at a club in Berwyn called The Out of Space. So look for us on Facebook, and that'll let you know where everything's going on. Chicago Vintage Show.
Thank you, Ken Marty. Rusty Blade, Chicago Vintage Show. Check it out. I think it's going to be interesting, giving you a look at music and history. It's always good to learn your history. Urban Grind TV, we out.